Welcome to the St. Louis City in the heart of the state of hockey for the 2025 Tom Kurvers Prospect Showcase, live from the Minnesota Wild training facility at Trio Rink in St. Paul, Minnesota. Here are your hosts.
The Chicago Blackhawks prospects and the Minnesota Wild prospects are set to close out our weekend here on Wild.com and Blackhawks.com. Good afternoon from Trio Rink here in St. Paul. Should be a great way to close out the weekend. I'm Ben Gislason, representing the Wild side of our broadcast today. And for the Blackhawks side, we've got Dana Gray and Charlie Roumeliotis. Gentlemen, looking forward to a photo finish this afternoon.
Yeah, let's do it. We had a really fun matchup yesterday between the Blackhawks and St. Louis Blues, where it was a 3-2 overtime for Chicago. We saw the speed of Oliver Moore on full display. He won't be playing for Chicago tonight. Neither will Sam Renzeller, Artem Levshinov. So we'll see a couple of new guys stand out in tonight's game, Dana.
Yeah, I've been impressed these 2 days of the pace of play, the physicality. There's a lot of roster spots out there for Blackhawks and Wild fans to kind of keep an eye on. So there's a lot to play for, and the guys have been giving it their all.
Meanwhile, for Minnesota, they played on Friday night a 6-4 loss. A much different hockey game that night than the one you two saw last night with the Hawks and the Blues. Minnesota will not have Zeev Buium in the lineup this afternoon. You will get to see Danila Yurov as well as Riley Heidt, Hunter Haight, and a whole lot of other prospect players. Teams are taking the ice now, but gentlemen, before we cast things off, let's harken back to the last Tom Kurvers Prospect Showcase these two teams played at. Charlie, you were around for that game. It was snarly. Even though it's prospects, it's still the Blackhawks and the Wild, isn't it?
Every time these two teams meet, specifically in the Tom Kurvers Prospect Showcase, there is some sort of feistiness. There's scrums after the whistles. And so I expect it to be another chippy matchup between the Blackhawks and Wild. I think there was even one year in 2019, things got so chippy that there were guys getting injured on both sides, and because it was now that's a general manager's nightmare, so hopefully it doesn't lead to that, but you do like the intensity and the competitiveness that some of these players come into this tournament with.
Well, we're getting set to honor our country here before we drop the puck for a Sunday afternoon matchup. It's the Hawks and the Wild, a prospect edition, coming your way next. Jet here from St. Paul for the final day of the Tom Kurvers Prospect Showcase. Great to have you aboard with us here this afternoon. We saw in the anthem Chase Wutsky starting goalie for the Minnesota side. There's Owen Flores, who will be in the pipes today for Chicago. Gentlemen, what do you got on 71 and white?
Yeah, he's a guy that signed an AHL deal over the summer. We're not really sure where he may start the season. It could be in Indy with the ECHL club or in Rockford as well, though. Stanislav Berezhnoi looked really good for Chicago last night, so there's some good options there in the depth. But Flores coming out of the OHL, and this will technically be his first pro-ish start.
Meanwhile, Chase Wutsky on the other side, 19 years of age, out of Saskatchewan, and was with the Red Deer Rebels the last few seasons, and looking forward to donning the Wild crest. We're looking forward to this one as well. Underway from Trio Rink. Let's enjoy. Nick Lardis on the near wall of his own zone. Had a helper in the win on Saturday night here in St. Paul last night against St. Louis. Flores with his first touch of the puck this afternoon. Bouncing puck up the wall, held at the line by Kyle Masters. Sop behind the net, looks in front for Hunter Haight, and that's blocked in the nick of time by Tage Harding. A couple of guys that had nice nights on Friday there Hunter Haight had a beautiful assist on Friday night. Matt Sopp had a goal and a helper, and a nice combination there out of that play in the right-hand corner.
We were talking about it leading up to this contest, some of the physicality that you could expect. How about right off the opening faceoff, Hunter Haight just dumping Aiden Thompson with a cross-check and putting him back on his keister.
Well, Dana, you saw plenty of Hunter Haight last year as the voice of the Rockford Ice Hogs, and myself as the voice of the Iowa Wild. So you've seen Haight's game, not only his ability to score, north of 20 goals last year, was the leading goal scorer for Iowa, but you've seen the ferocity that he plays with too.
And that's so valuable, especially in this level, to have that balance of a scoring touch and also can be physical like that. It's a good combination.
Well, I gave some credentials there for two parts of our broadcast. Should obviously mention Charlie Rumeliotis, the WGN radio studio host of the Chicago Blackhawks. So you can give us much more of an NHL vibe to this broadcast than a couple of AHLers like Dana and I can.
Well, by the way, first off, I'm a -1 already in this game because I think I said tonight in the intro. So it's the dreaded afternoon game here in Minnesota. So we will have, you have it on your notepad. Look at that. We need a jar right here.
It's an old trick. It's an old trick because I've made that tonight, and I probably will do it at some point today. It's an old trick to write it down somewhere where you see it pretty frequently because we are so used to those evening games. Early on here on Sunday afternoon, final day of the Tom Kurvers Prospect Showcase. Great to have you aboard with us as Minnesota will attack with Rasmus Kumpalainen, the rangy Finlander. And for Jack O'Brien, now Kumpalainen, standing at a towering 6'4", 203. At the blue line, here's Mike Kester. To his right, Leon Mamadovsky, a snapshot wide of Flores' cage. Stepping in from the right-hand circle, a wrister by Ryan McGuire is wide, and that'll float back out to neutral.
AJ Spellacy is a guy to watch in this game. He is an absolute bowling ball. He has a football-type background, used to be a cornerback and a wide receiver. We saw him lay a couple of big hits in that last shift.
And he really took advantage last year, kind of starting out with this and then into Blackhawks training camp. He was probably one of those last guys and last cuts that had people thinking that he could actually make the NHL roster. So he certainly has that same mindset here, starting off this week and into the next couple of weeks of trying to earn a spot.
So much at stake for all these young players, whether drafted or not, and we talked about it in the intro. These games can be feisty, and part of the reason is you want to make an impact, and sometimes laying the body can be doing just that. Matt Sopp wires one off the shoulder of Flores. Just over 3 minutes into our afternoon here, capital city of Minnesota, and an icing call comes here from the Blackhawks, and so that'll take a face-off back down in Owen Flores' zone. A reminder, power play in numbers, whether you're hosting a family reunion, entertaining clients, or showing appreciation to your employees. The Minnesota Wild has several group ticket offers to choose from. Visit wild.com/groups and book your experience today. Face-off won by the Wild. Jack Peart, stutter step move. That's deflected over for a great chance, and there's a huge save from Owen Flores. Wonderful opportunity for Jordan Torini as he crept down from the blue line.
Like the way that Flores tracked that initial shot, and then to find the rebound that quickly too. He had to go all the way over to his left side.
Early on this trio, Haight, Amadovsky, and Sopp, they have been all over the offensive zone. That's where they're headed again. Sopp drifting in, met by Dmitry Kuzmin. A hard body check there thrown by the Belarusian 22-year-old. Gets it back along the far wall and connects through center with Aiden Thompson. This one will bounce in, and another icing call against the Hawks. So far, guys, the line to watch has been that trio in green that just left the ice.
Yeah, and speaking of Aiden Thompson, really quick, he's playing center in this game today. That's his natural position. Yesterday, he was pushed to the wing, so you're going to see him more at his natural center position. He performed very well in his junior year at Denver, and I thought he took significant strides in the face-off department as well. So you're going to see it. You're going to see him in a different role today than you did yesterday in his more natural position at center.
That's a small sample size showcase like this, but you know it, and Dana, you've seen it. When guys come out of whether it's college or the junior ranks, oftentimes centers don't start at center. They maybe play a first-year wing or play a first 2 months wing, and so an opportunity for the likes of a Kyle Davidson to see what Thompson can do on the flank, but also to see what he can do today here at center.
Especially since we saw last season up in Chicago, that organization and that coaching staff is not afraid to move guys around up at the NHL level as far as wing to center, back and forth. We saw a good amount of juggling that, trying to find the right combination.
Here's Adam Benock looking for Riley Height. Pass was a little behind Height as he flew into the slot. Instead, the Hawks will exit. Jack Pridham's pass connecting with Ryan Green through center. Look out. Trying to come in and throw a big body check was Merrick Van Acker, but we're able to absorb it. Stepping in is Ryan Mast. He'll find Van Acker at the right circle. That's deflected just wide. Nice stick placement by the British Columbian Ethan McKenzie. Ashton Cumbie looks ahead and doesn't find a target. Third straight icing call against the Hawks with 14:41 remaining in a scoreless first.
We pointed it out yesterday, and it was a much later start time. There's the glare right in front. Chase Wutzke, the goaltender for Minnesota, and assumedly Owen Flores will have to deal with that in the second period. But I guess it's to his back, but rarely do you see the shadows like that on a rink.
For those fans that do not know, Tria Rink, built on the top floor of a 5-story building in downtown St. Paul. A marvel of engineering when you think about it, but it's a great practice facility. As Spellacy creeps in, big stop. Nice work there from Wutzke as he flashed his right pad. A.J. Spellacy factoring in early, just like you fellas were talking about. But to close the loop on the Tria Rink, indeed, if there is one knock for a game, the glare. As speaking of glares, Jack Peart giving one to A.J. Spellacy, as I believe the Wild have been assessed the first penalty of the hockey game here.
It looked like Spellacy wanted to drop the gloves as well. Nice chance there by AJ. He's been a factor early on in this first period, but after that play had ended, Spellacy lost his stick and then started looking at, like, you want to go, and it seemed, I thought we were going to get a little tilt. And we were talking about it in the intro, the Chicago-Minnesota prospect showcase games always getting a little chippy, and Spellacy is right at the center of it for Chicago.
Might just be the first ripple in the water, Charlie.
Oh, yeah.
So Minnesota's penalty kill will head to work for the first time this afternoon. The penalty is tripping to Jack Peart, native son of Minnesota from Grand Rapids up in the Iron Range. Hawks power play to work. Turnover at the blue line. Amadovsky creeping ahead. The motoring wheels of Hunter Haight couldn't get around Ryan Green. Will be interesting to see the Hawks power play today without, of course, 3 of the most talented players you'll see this weekend on any of the rosters.
Yeah, well, one of the things right now that I'm noticing is the Hawks are going with 5 forwards on this group. So no Sam Renzel, no Artem Levchinov. So there's no true power play quarterback on this power play, at least the first one for Chicago right now.
Nifty move there from the second rounder Ryan Green. Beat 3 to 4 players in green to get in there and get that opportunity.
Now, interestingly enough, something you don't see too often anymore, we're going to see a power play unit with 2 defensemen.
Look at that.
You got Tage Harding and Dmitry Kuzmin out there.
Harding scored a nice goal on Saturday night's win over St. Louis. Spellacy against Kumpalainen. Hawks win the draw. Kuzmin shuffling to his left, hands to his right. Harding into the corner, a bump in front. Able to get a stick on it was Mike Kester. .56 seconds remaining in the penalty to Jack Peart. Here's Spellacy. A drifting pass across. Now a one-timer from Kuzmin. One save from Wutzke. Rebound wasn't put on goal. Nice work in front of the net. The Wild were able to surround that puck and get it clear.
We talked about Dmitry Kuzmin a little bit last night and how he was acquired mid-season last year, and in large part, I think, to help Artem Levchinov out, have a fellow countryman in, but he's a nifty player. He's a good young defenseman that can move the puck well.
There's Kuzmin's pass, and a blistering blast from Merrick Van Acker sails wide. That one had a vapor trail behind it, but wrong sights on it. As we've got 17 seconds to go in the opening power play of the game, and Minnesota will head back to even strength here at 12:20 of the first. Still scoreless in St. Paul. Ben Gislason with Dana Gray and Charlie Roumeliotis covering today's finale of the Tom Kurvers Prospect Showcase. Here comes a blast from Andrew Parrott. That's blocked at the net front. Back comes Peart, and here comes Danila Yurov, the flashy first-round pick out of Russia. runs out of room in the far corner. Chicago gets it back. Now Ryan Gagne slithering his way towards the far wall. Kyle Masters seals him off. Nice pass in front. Nice shot block, though, by Riley Height. Adam Benak will dive into the offensive zone, trying to find Yurov. He opens up and shoots. That hit a shin pad in front before it got to Flores. Owen Robinson for Chicago. That one almost fooled Watzke as it came in. Flashing across the net front was Ryan Mast. Nice moving screen there from the Hawks.
Oop, almost had too many men there.
Ashton Cumbie, good patience at his own blue line, connecting with Pridham. Parrott's back with it, onto his backhand for Pridham. Ethan McKenzie there. He'll jet ahead, attacking 1-on-3. The defenseman cruising into his backhand, and Flores makes the save and tidies up. As we'll have a stoppage at 11:04 of a still scoreless first period of play. And from healthcare appreciation to Prince Night, the Wild's promotional nights allow you to share all your interests with fellow Wild fans. Learn more at wild.com/promotions. And guys, I see some fingers from my right pointing at the Zamboni Gravy Boat in Margaritaville.
Yeah, sign me up for those. I mean, that's a road trip, I guess, but hey, that's worth it.
I'll see what I can do, no promises.
Thanks, bud.
Parrott back behind his own net. Saw plenty of him with Rockford. Jack Peart's pass ahead. Nifty look there from Ryan McGuire. Here's Riley Height. Returns it to McGuire. He fanned on it. Well, McGuire had a nice Friday night with a goal and an assist. Almost had another point to his tournament. Here's McGuire's drive. Nice save from Flores. Green muscling away from Height. Puck winds up at center ice. So far, so good for Owen Flores, it seems. Looks confident, kicking pucks out. Rebound control's been good.
Yeah, both goaltenders, I think, have been really sharp early on in this game.
Amadovsky had his shot deflected wide. Matt Sopp to get it. Here's Hunter Haight. Sopp looks for Haight, right circle, wrist shot, save from Flores, and the rebound is gobbled up. Again, 65, 43, and 53 have been dizzying offensively for Minnesota.
Was talking with Owen a couple of days ago, and we touched on for a lot of these guys how it might be their first real game in 4 or 5 months. That's probably even a bigger point for the goaltenders to not see those live action pucks. And of course, you know, you can try and replicate as much as you can with screens and traffic and stuff like that, but nothing is going to match the actual game action. And Owen was saying he hadn't played a real game in 4 or 5 months.
And the one thing about these tournaments, too, is you've got players from all over the world. Some know each other, many of them don't. They get a few days of practice, then you put them on a power play together, you put them on a penalty kill together. Hockey is chaotic as it looks, Charlie. When you know it, it's actually not that chaotic. It's so much about systems and knowing where each other is. Nobody knows where each other is out here right now, do they?
Exactly, and I think that's what, when you are playing together, even yesterday we saw Nick Lardis and Merrick Van Acker play on the same line, is because they played together with the Brantford Bulldogs. Sometimes they play separately because they play different positions, but when you want that built-in chemistry in a short tournament like this, where you don't, they had a couple days of practice, but not consistently over several weeks where you know exactly each other's tendencies are, I think it's really important.
Time for Jack O'Brien. And his shot blocked by Kuzman in front of the net. The other way comes Harrison Israels. Martin Mishiak in behind the net. Spellacy trying to thrust it in front. There's Mishiak, and I'm not sure if that hit Watzke or the post, but it stayed out. Best chance of the hockey game on either side of the ice, but we stay scoreless.
And that all comes from the dump attempt as well. Kind of going back to your point about some of the chemistry, I think you see that the most through the neutral zone. It's tough to get through it cleanly and have those tap plays in direction that maybe you see mid-season. Blackhawks here just go for a simple dump and retrieve, and it leads to probably their best chance of the game so far.
Right in the middle of it, A.J. Spellacy. Looked into your crystal ball today, guys, and you saw A.J. Spellacy apparently. For my money, he's been the Hawks' best player so far.
I remember, I think in the last last year's game, Spellacy was really noticeable, really physical. And so that's no surprise that he likes to impose his will early in games.
3 prior seasons with Windsor in the OHL for Spellacy as the Wild get a chance, and Flores with an impressive stop on Yurov, point blank.
There's been a few rebound opportunities for Flores where he's had a Wild skater just outside the blue paint, and he's been really smart to kick with as much pace to get that puck as far away from danger as possible.
Speaking of pace, here comes Bishak. He galloped in coast to coast. He was trying to find Gagne in front. Instead, Harding's pass lost by Gagne, and it's Adam Van Ock the other way. He had 3 helpers on Friday night. Riley Height slides in. His wrist shot deflected high of the net by Parrott. Pass looking to the high slot for Height. Deflects back into the Wild zone with 7.5 to play. We're in the opening stanza from St. Paul. No score between the Hawks and the Wild. Here at the Tom Kurvers Prospect Showcase. Hawks have an opportunity to be the lone undefeated team if they can skate today with a victory.
Is there a winning trophy for this? I got to say, I was at this. This is too funny of a story not to tell. We've got the backdrop that we brought up from Chicago for media, and it comes in those very common medical hockey equipment trunks that anyone who's seen the back alley of a room knows. The black with a little bit of silver outline, and I was wheeling it out yesterday and passed Archim Levchinov, and he goes, "Stanley Cup?" It was a little smaller than that, but I totally got it. It looked exactly like it.
My follow-up to that question is, did you tell him yes?
Unfortunately, the top
sure thing, Artie, absolutely.
The top was opening, so it wouldn't have lasted long.
The case really did look like the Stanley Cup, just a little bit smaller. And so it was a good eye by Artem. If you would have said yes, I imagine he would have stepped away from it, right? Because the hockey players are superstitious when it comes to that.
Ryan Green with a chance, fanned on it as he crept in. Hawks have turned up the heat a little bit here in the second half of this period. Minnesota had some early chances, but Chicago responding here, and we're going to get another look here as Jeremy Bushler's in. Gets a rebound, great save from Wutzke. That one popped right into the slot. It was Van Acker there, and a nice shoulder stop from the former Red Deer Rebel. Aiden Thompson ran off the puck by Kyle Masters with 6:10 to play. Kumpalainen thundering his way across the offensive blue line. He'll cycle it down into the corner. Trying to slip it in front was Carter Klippenstein, and Flores meets it at the post and hangs on tight with 6:01 remaining. Still no score here in St. Paul, and the boys are taping their sticks and sharpening their skates. How are you getting ready for the Wild season? Help us drop the puck on our upcoming season at Wildfest on September 27th and 28th. Learn more at wild.com/wildfest. One thing I'm going to have to get used to this season is Grand Casino Arena. Growing up, going to these games as a Minnesota Wild lifelong fan, the XL Energy Center, no more. Whenever there are name changes, it's just, especially for broadcasters, we've got one in Des Moines. It's going to be Casey Center this year, not Wells Fargo Arena. I can tell you, I am not going to get away with that. There's a guarantee opening night, and it will be Wells Fargo Arena at least once.
It definitely does throw me off. Oh, here we go. Nathan Boehm here on a breakaway.
Here comes a break for Boehm as a man with them, and Lardis and Wutzke with the stunner. A gorgeous save from Chase Wutzke. Lardis was flying down the weak side on his offhand, and Wutzke wowing with that stop.
It was a pretty nice play from Boehm, who was having his space closed quickly. I don't know if he was going to get the best shot off, but he saw Lardis just streaking down out of the corner of his eye, and he put it in a pretty good shooting space for him to go right down to the knee for the one-timer. It's just a better save.
Wow, I'm really surprised Lardis was even able to get a clean shot on that, because there was a hard back checker coming behind him. But we know Lardis, the historic season that he had last year, was 71 goals in the OHL. No one's done that since John Tavares, who, by the way, the two of them did skate together and train together this offseason. But Lardis is used to those going in, so he was probably a little bit surprised that that one got stopped.
Just a monumental season for Lardis, the Brantford Bulldogs. Hawks will get another chance here. A nice chip pass. It's Misiak to the back door, and that one misses Watzke looked like he might have been there, but Spellacy was just a little handcuffed on that post. Well, it's been all Blackhawks for the last 10 minutes. Minnesota hanging on, though. Watzke has been impressive. Now a little bit of the extracurricular activity that we teased in our intro.
Harrison Israel's involved in that. He's going to be a rookie by games going this season, but I loved that pass through center. He saw that he had two Hawks teammates in front of him at the blue line, and he just kind of put the chip perfectly to fall for both those guys streaking in.
Some of the Wild prospects were watching Premier League Sunday this morning, and that looked a lot like something you might see out on the pitch. It was perfectly weighted, as they like to say, across the pond.
And we got penalties coming.
Spellacy and McGuire take a trip to the sin bin here, offsetting Miners.
Well, after the scrum started to ensue in front of the net, A.J. Spellacy was skating away and didn't realize there was a scrum ensuing, and you should have seen his eyes. He lit up, he turned around and darted for the scrum, and he started to mix it up. So no surprise that the officials are going to try to get this under control early on and send both guys to the box.
Like a kid on Christmas morning heading down to the tree.
He was ready to go again. And I don't know if you'll be able to notice, but he has a couple. He had a cut under his eye. He has it glued there. He fortunately didn't get stitches, but he got into a little scuffle at practice with Aiden Thompson. The competitive juices were flowing on the second practice between internally the Blackhawks. So you love to see A.J. Spellacy bringing up the internal competition for the Blackhawks as well.
There was kind of that had a little bit of its viral moment on Hawks social media, and I saw a few takes of worrying, that Thompson and Spellacy were going.
Love that.
That's perfect. That is maybe not exactly what you want all the time, but it just goes to show how much these guys are going to compete for this week. When you have guys flying in early and to compete and get to know each other, it's important.
I was around during the Dynasty era, and I watched practices with Kane and Taves and Sharp, and all those guys got into it as well. Like, they got physical, not really physical, but they had that internal competition within themselves, and so I loved seeing that come out in the rookie practice for Chicago, because all these young guys are going to be growing together, and that unifies the group when they're able to have that competition on practice, because I think when you translate onto the ice, when they're on the same team against the opposition, I think that's going to unify them.
It's the type of culture you're trying to promote no matter where you're at. And even just watching practice yesterday, first-year head coach of the Iowa Wild, he's the head coach here for this weekend, and Greg Cronin, guy brings a remarkable amount of intensity, even just watching practice, and didn't see any scuffles like that story you were referring to, but that's the type of environment teams want to promote, is that hyper-competitive but also hyper-unified culture. Greg Cronin looking to do that, and this year in the American Hockey League, both of these teams will have first-year head coaches, and obviously in Jared Nightingale, somebody that Hawks fans and Ice Hogs fans are familiar with.
Yeah, two guys. I think intensity is a good way to describe Jared Nightingale as well.
Chance for Mike Kester looking near side. That one's blockered away by Flores, and that allows Dana Gray to pick up right where you left off.
Yeah, Nighty as a player certainly wasn't afraid to mix it up, and I think we saw it with a few of the signings. We announced Jared Nightingale as the head coach just at the end of May, and it took until maybe 2 or 3 weeks to see a couple of his character signings come through, and you look at the penalty minutes on the right, and you start connecting the dots. He's making sure that his team and these Blackhawks prospects are going to be very well protected.
Well, when you have the amount of talent and young but high draft picks that you're likely going to see in Rockford, that's an important part of it. No different in Minnesota, not as many of the high draft picks that you see, but still Iowa will be loaded with some younger, talented players. Riley Height, Hunter Haight. Could you potentially see some of those guys need some protection during the course of the year? Yes, you will need it. Seen signings, guys like Mark Lewinsky coming to Iowa from Manitoba. I know you know him well, Dana, from his time with the Moose last year. So Greg Cronin and general manager Matt Hendricks also making that same thought of let's surround our young, talented players with guys that, if they need to, can step in and handle their business.
Well, it's all about the balance, right? Especially in the American Hockey League, and you know this so well, that it's this really fun combination where you might have former NHLer, 30-goal scorer who wants a couple more years at it, who's 35 years old. Then you have the 18-year-old who's learning how to do his laundry for the first time. And then you have some of these enforcers and you got to mishmash together. But I think that's kind of what we've seen as the most successful teams in the American Hockey League, and then going forward, get the most successful growth out of their prospects too.
Rasmus Kupalainen will be one of those higher drafted players that we might likely see in Iowa this season for the Wild. Kupalainen selected in 2023 in the second round.
Ooh. Ashton Cumbie tripped on the blue line, and they went to dump the puck, and it almost hit him in the face.
Speaking of hitting, plenty of that going on. It's Spellacy again, who's been a bull in a china shop. There's a big hit from Rowan Top, and he's looking back at Spellacy. They want to go, and indeed they will. Well, Spellacy wanted one all period. Rowan Top happy to answer the bell. Our first tussle of the afternoon, Spellacy and Top here in St. Paul. Locking up for now, no big punches yet. A couple over the top from Rowan Top. An invite player looking to make his imprint here in St. Paul. Spellacy, a big uppercut. More defensive fight here than offense, but both will get a Gladiators salute from their benches and from the crowd.
Well, we knew it was probably going to happen in this game. Spellacy early on in this game was starting to hit anything that moved and got into the scrum a few shifts ago, got thrown into the box, and as soon as he came out of the box, went straight to the Blackhawks bench, and as he hopped on that next shift, he got lined up, and you could tell they were staring at each other from afar, and they were ready to drop the gloves, and we got it early on in this game.
And Top, obviously, seeing what Spellacy, the way he'd been playing, caught Top's eye. Top, a guy who corralled 72 penalty minutes last year in golf in the OHL, so he's no stranger to the rougher side of hockey. Went after Spellacy at the blue line. That was the green light for AJ, and the dance was on.
By the way, I should clarify, the cut under Spellacy's eye was from a skate to the face, but after, like seconds after that, is when he got into it with Aiden Thompson, because Thompson had skated around Spellacy, said something, so Spellacy's had a chippy last couple days here for Chicago.
The training staff has been busy. I'm sure the training staff might have maybe got a little bit tight watching him fight, because your face is obviously in play in a fight like that, and if he's glued up. Also getting away with a skate to the face and no stitches, just glue.
Yes.
Wow.
He dodged the bullet.
Indeed. 1:06 to go. No score here in the first. Flash of the leather there from Watzke on the drive by Van Acker. We'll hit pause. We'll have general manager of the Iowa Wild, Matt Hendricks, joining us during our first intermission. Chicago Blackhawks general manager Kyle Davidson stopping by for the second intermission. Some nice guests lined up for your afternoon. No ice here as Dmitry Kuzman's back for this puck, looking for Thompson. Bounces away, Mass stretching, Lardis trying to get past Masters, and a shoulder save from Watzke. 40 seconds to go in a period that really has been highlighted by Watzke and Flores. They've been dueling in the blue paint so far here this afternoon.
Nifty shot attempt by Nick Lardis there. You see Connor Bedard do that a lot, where he's dragging the puck on his backhand and then he immediately goes to his forehand and flicks it. Nick Lardis just tried to do the same thing. He got a pretty good shot attempt off.
To click save and send that comparison to Nick after the game.
Yeah. Well, Nick and Connor were actually line mates 2 years ago when Bedard had the hat trick here in his unofficial Blackhawks debut. So two of them got to develop some early chemistry together.
Early in our afternoon, no score yet, but this game's starting to boil a little bit between these two old foes in the Wild and the Blackhawks. We'll head to the first intermission, scoreless here from Tria Rink in St. Paul. Charlie, Dana, a penny for your thoughts.
Yeah, I think my biggest takeaway is Owen Flores and, what he was bringing into this game as far as a long wait to actually get back into game action. I'm impressed with him from the Blackhawks side. He controlled his rebounds well. And certainly for the kid putting on a Blackhawks uniform for the first time, that's got to be a big moment. And Well, he makes 8 saves. Good job.
Yeah, both goaltenders were really sharp in this first period, but it felt like the chippiness was brewing from the start of this puck drop, and let's see if it carries over into the second and third, because it potentially could.
Here's hoping.
For Minnesota's side, I'd imagine Greg Cronin will hope to see a little more of what he saw in the opening 5 to 7 minutes as opposed to the final 12. The Hawks were able to turn it on a bit in the later stages of that period, but some terrific shifts from Matt Sopp, Liram Amadovsky, and Hunter Haight, something to likely key in on for Cronin and his staff as we get ready for the second period here in St. Paul. No score yet. When we come back, General Manager of the Iowa Wild, Matt Hendricks, stops by, and I'll give you a tease. He has a great fishing story for us, apparently. He looks to share that and more when we come back. Plenty more hockey in the offering here from St. Paul. The Tom Kurvers Prospect Showcase rolls along.
Together. Book your unique and exclusively priced group experience today.
Wild and the Blackhawks, the Prospect Edition here from the Tom Kurvers Prospect Showcase. I'm Ben Gislason, welcoming you back to Tria Rink in St. Paul, joined general manager of the Iowa Wild, Matt Hendricks. Matt, you and I are used to doing a lot of these throughout the course of the season. Not here in St. Paul normally, though.
Correct.
Thanks for stopping by, and what have you made of tonight and the week?
Yeah, Benny, thanks for having me. This has been a good game. A lot of compete from both teams. Both goalies are playing well. There's been some good spirited battles in the corners and the scrap to end the period. So, yeah, I've been happy. I'm happy the way it's looked.
Highlights of the week so far, highlights of the weekend. What are some things, whether it's individual stuff from players or just as a whole, the group that you've got here in St. Paul, what's standing out to you?
Yeah, first I think we start with the group, the prospects. They're all here on time, which, they checked that first box. But, no, they've come together in a short week here, short camp. The compete level was high the other night. I know we didn't get the result for St. Louis that we'd hoped, but you can't blame it on compete. These kids came out, they worked hard, they put together a game plan, and they've been working. The skill level that we have this year is a little bit more than we're used to over the last few. I think you're moving into prospects now. You look at Adam Bennick's game the other night with 3 assists, had the puck on a string. It was a good night for him, and we hope that we can get some more of that timely scoring tonight.
You have the Urovs, you have the Heights, the Hates, the Boyums, but you also have mid-round picks. You've got tryout players, invited players, AHL signed players. You're a guy's a 5th-round pick that you had to earn every minute you got in the National Hockey League, and you earned a lot of those minutes. What do you find yourself telling players, and maybe it's Urov, but maybe it's not, guys that are trying to get themselves onto the NHL radar, what do you find yourself telling players most in those conversations?
With Danila being a 1st-round pick, or, it could be an invite. Recognize the opportunity that you have, and it was an opportunity that allowed you to get here, whether you were a drafted player, whether you're a free agent signing, whether you were an invite. You did something with a past opportunity that got you a seat here in St. Paul right now. Now recognize the next opportunity, that's getting out here on the ice in a game and make the most of it.
Obviously, you spend time in Minnesota, but your main focus during the year, calling me a lot, first and foremost.
Yes. I don't know where I'd be without you, Benny.
But obviously the Iowa Wild, general manager of the Iowa Wild, new head coach in Greg Cronin, a fabulous NHL, AHL head coaching pedigree. Haven't had the opportunity to work with him in the flesh, though, until this week. What have you noticed about his details and about how he operates now that you're getting to see him in the flesh this week?
Yeah, it's been great. First, just wish Brett McLean all the best in Vancouver as he's moved on there, and hope him and his NHL career continue to go well. But yeah, moving on to Greg Cronin, the detail just wows me. Every day, in the way he's been running these practices, he uses the whistle a lot right now, but it's all teaching moments, teaching opportunities for him to bring the group together, stop, slow it down, go through it again, because stick detail for him, body positioning, communication, all the things that stick out to me and I think helped made me a better player and gave me the opportunity to be in the NHL are the little things that he's been preaching on the daily. So it's been great working with him. He's a leader, committed, hardworking, and wants to win.
Lastly, I was tuning into my Minnesota AM fishing report this morning as I was on the way into St. Paul, and I unfortunately heard some difficult news out of your boat this morning. Do you care to share what happened?
Yeah, I popped down to my neighbor's dock earlier today, and I'm always after the elusive Minnesota muskie. For you listeners out there that know what I'm talking about, maybe there's somebody that can give me some tips, but I had one on a topwater, and he got off right at the dock. So unfortunately, that would have been my first of the season.
The fish of 1,000 casts, am I right?
I think it's 10,000 in my mind. But yeah, you're right.
Matt, thanks for stopping by. Congratulations on another successful camp here in Tria, and we'll look forward to things kicking off for real very soon.
You got it, Benny. Looking forward to it. Thanks.
That's General Manager of the Iowa Wild, Matt Hendricks, here in St. Paul. Coming up, Wild on 7th, a snippet from our podcast here in St. Paul. It's scoreless between the Wild and the Blackhawks.
This is Wild on 7th, your favorite Wild podcast.
Did you guys see this? This is unbelievable. What is that all about, Kinger? Get in here for the real thing? Like, let's get weird. Maybe I blacked out trying to figure out what was going on. Doubt, worry, fear, because that's what we're breaking the mold on here.
Welcome to Wild on 7th, presented by Pilot Games. We're here until it's here.
right, this interview is sponsored by Duke Cannon. If your hair is a weapon, if you need some body wash, if you need some cologne, earn your clean. Walk into a Target, grab some Duke Cannon. Man, we got great guests today. We got a Johnny Cash defenseman, likes to walk that line. All he does is win gold. Zeev Buyam from the Minnesota Wild. And we got a guy as cool as Robert Redford and Paul Newman. If we could all age as gracefully as Sweet Lou from the Sioux, we would be happy. Mr. Lou Nanne. Welcome to the program, gentlemen. Yeah. So, Zeev, you're going to be signing for these guys later. You're a young player. I was looking at Kirill's signature the other day, and as best I can tell, he just draws a diamond, which I don't even know. I was like, I don't even know if he signed this. They're like, no, that's what he does. Do you take consideration? You got the Z, which is an awesome item. Like, do you have a strong signature?
Mine's pretty bad, honestly.
Just a big Z and then a scribble?
It's kind of like a Z, like half an E and like a scribble.
Do you go number?
I do, yeah. I always go number.
That's strong. Do you go like WJC gold, World Championship gold?
No, I don't.
That would take too long, probably.
Yeah.
That's a good question, though. So
I think it matters. Like, I remember Ricky Henderson's signature when I was a little kid on his rookie card, and it was so cool, and you knew what it looked like. I mean, Louis, you got to think like this is a thing, right, to have a professional signature?
No, I don't. I actually, maybe you forgot the story of Harmon Killebrew, and it's something I heard him say, and I remembered, and I thought it was really appropriate. He says, people want your autograph, make it so that they can understand who it is. And I have to tell you a story. I played in old timers. It was called Heroes of Hockey, Madison Square Gardens, when I was done playing. And before the game, Gordie Howe came over to me. He says, what's up? I said, I was trying to get a hold of you there. I said, I want you to sign my sweater. And he said, why? I said, Gordie, you've been my idol since I grew up. I won't have it. He says, you know what? Sign mine too then. I said, okay, well, why don't we get everybody to sign it? So we went around the room, and we have some of the greatest names that ever played in hockey I have in this sweater. And that's the only thing I still have. And you know, I don't understand anybody's signature except Gordie Howe.
Yes, you don't know who it is?
I don't know who's playing now. I can't remember, and I can't read it, and that makes me so upset. You know, I know Cornway was there. I know Esposito was there. But the guys I know I could figure out, but, you know, you got 20 guys there, and I can't read most of the signatures, and that's ridiculous.
I think I played with guys that had like two signatures, so they'd have like their one that they would sign for fans that would try to be legible or maybe fast, because sometimes guys try to do just a fast one, you know, and then they'd have their official one, which would look quite a bit different, you know what I mean? So
you're off the hook with the Z, though. All you need is a Z and a number, man.
Yeah. Mine's pretty simple. Like, you can usually tell it's me.
Unless they think it's Zuccarello. We'll figure that out. But hey, Zeev, so tell us about your summer. I saw you got the beach bod going. I saw you with the. We actually showed Garen the photo.
Oh, no.
He seemed quite pleased with your progress.
Yeah.
So you probably put on some LBs in the right way, and you're maybe living with Boldy?
Yeah, I'm staying with Bolds right now. He's nice enough to take me in and let me live with him for now. So, yeah, but summer's been good. I mean, I get to spend a little bit of time at home with my family, my friends. So, yeah, I mean, can't complain when you're going to the beach almost every day.
How are the decorations at Boldy's place? Because he was on the podcast a couple years ago. You remember this?
He tried to.
And
buy
what kind of photo did he want of some band, right?
He tried to buy like a wall-sized picture of the Rolling Stones, and
it was like a 10. It was like a 10 by 10. He put in a frame, didn't fill up the wall, so it looked ridiculous. So he had to hire an interior designer to go through the place. But it looks good.
It's beautiful. Yeah, he's got a sweet place, really really nice, and he keeps it really clean. I was pretty impressed with how organized.
Is there a golf simulator in there?
No, we were trying to convince him the other day to maybe get one in there, but I don't think he's gonna do it.
He's not gonna bite?
No, I think he's gonna wait.
Right on.
Book your unique and exclusively priced group experience today.
Sailing into the second period here from the Tom Kurvers Prospect Showcase. Ben Gislason, voice of the Iowa Wild, voice of the Rockford Ice Hogs, Dana Gray, and the studio host for your Chicago Blackhawks for those fans tuning in, Charlie Roumeliotis. And a scoreless game, guys, as we get set for the second, but we've got some highlights to get to from that period. Just because there weren't any goals doesn't mean there aren't some things we should take a peek at. Likely we're going to see some saves here. Maybe we'll see a fight or two. This was the opening chance that had us all wondering, would that be the opening strike? A.J. Spellacy had a great opening period, but so did Chase Watsky.
Yeah, both goaltenders I thought were really sharp in that first period. And even though it was scoreless, like you mentioned, that doesn't mean it was uneventful, because there were definitely several chances by Chicago. Here's the Owen Flores. Dana, I thought, had a really good first period as well for Chicago.
It felt like Minnesota's game. In the first 5 to 7 minutes, Chicago turned it on from there. This was the most breathtaking save of the period. Chase Watsky, just a marvelous sliding stop that then spilled over into a little pushing and shoving. Eventually, A.J. Spellacy would dance with Rowan Top. And that's about all we have to report so far from the opening 20 minutes of play. But as we get set for the second, what's on your mind?
Let's see if the chippiness carries over into the second period. Typically, guys like Spellacy has obviously been a bowling ball, a wrecking ball all in the first period. Because he danced in that first period, you wonder if he's not going to start shying away, because he's still going to try to lay some big hits. But I wonder if it's just going to say, hey, let's just focus on the hockey now. We'll see. I hope it doesn't, because Spellacy is a really fun player to watch when he is engaged hitting like that.
Some of these younger prospects to really get the chance to prove what they've got in front of so many front office staff members here at Tria Rink. And, you know, for both these teams now, you got 2 periods left to kind of make your case. So that has to be the mindset for some of these guys that are fighting for spots, whether that's in the AHL or the NHL. And this is your chance in the competitive environment. And I think that's probably why, as that period went on, we saw it boil over a little bit.
Well, before we drop the puck here for the second period, definitely want to take a moment to recognize the namesake of this tournament, of this showcase, someone that is very near and dear to so many hockey fans and hockey people in the state of Minnesota, including all the Minnesota Wild organization and staff. Tom Kurvers passed away back in June of 2021. Cancer. He's a Bloomington Jefferson Jaguar, UMD Bulldog up north. 659 National Hockey League games played. I skipped over the 1984 Hobey Baker winner with the Bulldogs. Was also an assistant general manager of the Minnesota Wild from 2018 to his passing in 2021, where he was the general manager of the Iowa Wild. So somebody that was beloved everywhere he went in hockey, whether it was as a player, whether it was as a front office executive. So we're definitely thinking of Tom's family, left behind some children and, of course, his wife. So thinking of TK today, and everybody that knew him was to love TK. So thinking of you, Tom, today, and hopefully he's watching from somewhere, seeing all these prospects and enjoying what he's seeing. He didn't mind the rough stuff either, so had to get that in today. And with that, period 2. Happy to hand over the lead reins of this show. Dana Gray, take it away, my friend.
Thanks, Ben. This has been a blast with you guys. I was saying right after the top, we should do every game like this.
It is a blast. Well, and you get different perspectives, right?
Totally.
You know, especially, Charlie, you got a huge team to work with when you're doing the Hawks games. But for Dana and I, at least on the road, I know you and I get some help when we're at home sometimes from some analysts. But when we're on the road,
you're lugging the truck, my friend.
Exactly. Your color commentary, your studio analyst, you're cutting the interviews together, and so it's really great to get a situation like this where I can lean in and learn more about the Hawks. You guys can lean in and learn more about the Wild. So here we go.
I'm sure it's nice that you guys are able to take sips of water in between play, because I'm sure you don't get that in the AHL when you're just constantly providing play-by-play.
I will say the bathroom breaks during the intermission are a beautiful thing. It goes a long way. Underway here in the second period. No score between the Wild and the Blackhawks. Chicago going to work with Aiden Thompson down low. Tried to find Lardis in the slot. And it'll filter back out to center where Andrew Parrott's on it. A former Rockford Ice Hog who rejoins the organization, though He was with Jared Nightingale in South Carolina in the ECHL last year, though spent a decent amount of time up in Hershey, and now he comes back to Illinois. Amadovsky just over the line, but a hair offsides. Just 43 seconds into period number 2 in our final game of the showcase.
Stingray team that was lights out last year in the ECHL. Jared Nightingale, of course, winning the John Brophy Award as the ECHL Coach of the Year. 52, 15, and 5. My goodness.
And in beautiful playoff hockey fashion, they get knocked out in the first round at Game 7.
It's a cruel sport, this one.
Bushler down below his own goal line will filter it out for Ryan Green, the BU product. Dmitry Kuzmin goes back on it, tries to chip out to center. Pridham on it, but couldn't clear. That was a great keep in by Yurov, who had been knocked by the back door. Watching in front was Owen Flores. He gets his second straight period.
We're probably going to see some jumbled lines, at least in the first few minutes of this second period, with AJ Spellacy still in the box for Chicago after that riff towards the end of the first. So we'll see who gets the double shifting duties for the Blackhawks.
Rowan Top in there for Minnesota, though. They're still at a healthy 6 defensemen. They dressed 7 defensemen today. O'Brien at center gets crunched by Cumby, followed up by Yurov, who has been noticeable, Ben, pretty much right from puck drop on Friday night, even against the Blues. He was a little bit of everywhere and trying to turn some heads in front of a lot of Minnesota fans.
Well, it's always so interesting when you have a player as highly touted as him coming out of Russia. You just don't quite ever know as much about those players as you do if they come from even some places like Sweden or Slovakia. For whatever reason, it's harder to know exactly what you're going to get when you get some of these players. I can harken back even to when Kirill Kaprizov had yet to come over, and he was a later round pick, so you wonder what you're going to get from a guy like that. And I know they think the same about Yurov, even though he was selected much higher than the star Kaprizov was as a first rounder. So Yurov, someone that broke Vladimir Tarasenko's record for most points as an under 21 player in the KHL, so he's got a lot of pedigree behind him. But just because he did that there doesn't mean you can do it here. Charlie, you've seen that. I'm sure guys come through the National Hockey League level where he has to prove himself still, and Bill Guerin has said that. You're going to come here and you're going to earn a spot. Just because you're a first-round pick doesn't mean it's guaranteed.
I think you can probably point to Nick Lardis, the historic OHL season that he had, and some people maybe not expect him to make that transition to pro hockey. And it's like, no, he's not going to score 71 goals right away in the AHL. There's going to be a grace period for him as well. So even though he is in that special elite company, it is going to take some time and effort for Lardis to prove himself in the NHL as well.
Blackhawks looking to break out right to left. Could lead pass for Robinson. He's in over the line, trying to backhand it deep, but stuffed up at the line by Ryan McGuire, who's had a nice tournament here for the Wild. Scored on Friday night and has been a little bit of everywhere as well this afternoon. 3 minutes into the second, still no score. Kuzmin on it at his own goal line. He'll look north. Lardis couldn't twirl it around. He turned it over. Hayden tight is denied by Flores. He catches it with the glove, maybe his best of the afternoon so far.
It's easy to say from up here, but it looked like Haight had room to the backhand, and Flores wanted him to try to go to that near side, and I don't know if baiting the glove was quite what Flores was doing there, but Haight, someone who has demonstrated patience at times, so I was actually a little surprised to not see him pull it to his backhand there, but as I started the sentence by saying, it's a lot easier to say that from up here than it is from down there.
I will say the sun has creeped around the building and it is back. It actually makes the ice look.
What a snipe from Ryan Green down the left wing. He just went under the glove of Wutsky out of nowhere and gives the Blackhawks a lead.
I'm wondering if this one went off of Masters' stick, because it felt like a relatively innocuous chance. I think it did go off the stick of Masters, and anytime there's even just a feather of a touch on those shots, it makes it awkward for goaltenders. But give Green some credit, because Masters got a good amount of lumber on that, and he was still able to drill that one to the far side. A nice shot from Green, and Hawks take the lead.
Really nice shot by Ryan Green. My apologies for stealing your thunder here. It's talking about the sun glare and totally missed Ryan Green's snipe on the other end.
We can get back to the sun, though, if you'd like.
And that's good for Blackhawks fans to see, too, because you know that with Green and the prospect that he is, I think it's fair to say he's known as a disher a little bit more than a finisher. And to see that shot mentality certainly doesn't hurt. Israels stuffs it to the front, found in front by the back door. Israels just couldn't slant it home. Misiak put it on a tee for him. 4 minutes into period 2. And a 1-0 Chicago lead after the Ryan Green strike. Nast goes back on it for Chicago. Here's Green out there for his next shift. Trying to settle a bouncing puck. Mast couldn't clear. That's held in at the line by Turin. Battled for behind Flores. He looks over his right shoulder. Spellacy, who's now up and out of the box with Rowan Top. Those two return to game action after dropping the mitts. Great move by Klippenstein. Draws a penalty. And the Wild will go on the man advantage. A really nice power move by the youngster.
Well, and it all started, too, just hounding a puck loose here on the wall. Spellacy gets knocked down, loose puck, and Klippenstein doesn't waste any time. He doesn't think, am I going to wade into these waters? He darted right in there. He picked that puck up, and you called it, Dana. When he got to that right-hand circle on his offhand side, he lowered that shoulder. Not a giant, but 6'3", 181. You can use the frame. Klippenstein did it well there, and Minnesota's power play that had 3 power play goals in the loss on Friday will try to stay hot.
Got one on the 5-on-3. That came from Sop. That was to tie the game against the Blues. They'll skate 5-on-4 here. Trying to knot this game at 1. Bisiak quickly in on the penalty kill. He knocks down Peart from behind. Tries to free up the puck and kill off a few extra seconds on the PK. Dropped back to Haight. He'll glide over the Wild logo at center. Ran into Aiden Thompson. He's got speed to burn. He'll pull up at the boards. He's dealt with well by Peart, though, who recovered nice and quick. But that is a guy to Aiden Thompson on a penalty-killing forward position that can be dangerous pretty much anytime he gets the puck up in the neutral zone. Wild finally looking to settle it up. On the near wall, Banach. The lefty will filter it down low. Looking across the ice to the circles. Yurov was waiting and the pass just couldn't find him as we click towards the halfway marker of the Minnesota power play.
Yeah, he was there too, and Minnesota did a good job of keeping everybody's gaze fixated on the near side of the ice there, and all of a sudden that seam opened up, and if that puck gets to Yurov based off what his previous years would demonstrate and the scoring he's got, that puck's likely finding the net.
McGuire's on it for Minnesota as the Wild complete a change, get their next unit out on the ice. Poked away from Kuzmin, now settled by Kupalainen. Up to the blue line, Banach. He's going to make his move towards the slot. Delays to get away from Van Acker. And then a good stick in the lane. Those are those little habits that the brass is going to love to see from some of the younger players.
Yeah, good early kill here for Chicago with 28 seconds left. I was going to make a comment with Tage Harding on the other side, or on the first unit. My goodness, he covers so much ground with that size and his stick. It prevented lanes from getting open from Minnesota when they were down low, and so Harding hops right back on the ice for this final 28 seconds of Chicago's PK.
Gagne wins the draw back to the end boards. Harding stapled in there. Rubbed out by McGuire. Tried to get it back to the blue line, but not with possession. Maybe one last rush for Kyle Masters and company. He'll drop it back. Skated north by Amadovsky. Over the line, Harding rejects it. Robinson quickly on his horse. Sop does a nice job to use body position. He knows that he doesn't want to take the penalty, obviously, but just walks that line of interference or not and does enough.
A little bit of a return to what I would imagine you'd see from power plays. I was pleasantly surprised by Minnesota's power play on Friday night. Again, just going back to our previous conversation in the first period about specifically on the power play, it is all about timing and awareness, and you have plays that you run, but there's creativity that's allowed within those plays. And to see a bunch of guys who really have never played in a power play together score 3 power play goals on Friday night, I thought was pretty amazing. And you saw a little bit more there, partially maybe because of the work that you guys mentioned of the Hawks on the kill, but a little more individualism, trying to make plays. Amidovsky there getting a little freelanced at the blue line. Thus, you don't see a lot of success on that power play.
Foot race in the Wild zone. Gagne goes in hard to the corner boards. Trying to battle for a puck with Owen Robinson. He's drilled hard into the end wall. Held there for a moment. That should allow Minnesota to break out. Here's Klippenstein, who drew the penalty. He'll test the pads of Flores. Calm and easy with the rebound, and he pushes it aside. Flores now up to 16 saves in his first game donning a Blackhawks uniform. Klippenstein in on the forecheck, fought for at the circle, and Andrew Parrott will settle it down and start his approach. Didn't gain that red line though, and that'll be icing. We'll see what the Wild can do with an offensive zone faceoff coming up, 7.5 into the second period.
And one player that I've had circled during my offseason prep for the year in Iowa this year is Jack Peart. And we're actually seeing Stevie Leskovar on the screen right now. I can talk about him too a little bit later on, but you know, Peart, someone who's going to be coming into his full second year pro, but third if you want to count a few games 3 years ago when he finished up at St. Cloud State. But he made just gigantic steps from December on into the end of the season last year for Iowa. He played some of the most minutes on Iowa's blue line towards the end of the year. He was facing a lot of talent too.
Here's Amidovsky streaking in, and he scores! A burst of speed from Liam Amidovsky, and he ties the game at 1.
Well, we saw him on Friday night. He scored a beautiful goal tandeming with Hunter Haight. And what I noticed on that goal Friday night was his speed, straight line speed. He started the play in his own zone on Friday, a give and go with Haight, got a return feed and scored. A little bit less of a runway on this goal, but same thing. Picks that puck up at the red line, turns on the afterburners, and a nice finish under the glove.
By the way, Andrew Parrott was not supposed to be playing in this tournament, but he stepped in for Ty Henry, one of Chicago's prospects who suffered an ankle injury in the second practice of this for the Blackhawks. And so Parrott stepped in, didn't get the opportunity to work with some of the other guys in practice, and so shaking off a little bit of rust, but that was a really nice move there. And Minnesota has tied this game up at 1-1.
And a solid finish too. He didn't try to do too much, just picked a little spot. Something that Lardis can do. He throws it to the slot. It's a good back check and intercept from Yurov, the Russian. So the Wild have tied the game at 1. After a scoreless first, teams have exchanged markers. Here's Thompson. He'll dangle into the slot, delay, and fire one just wide of that far post. Wanted to test the glove of Wutzke. Lardis behind the net. Off the stick of the goaltender, and it drops perfectly for McKenzie, the defenseman, to lead the rush. The knock in over the line. Along the boards, it's Haight. Grabs it off the wall, sets up a one-timer. It's turned aside by the blocker of Flores, and he just waits for some friends to guide the puck back to his glove and makes the save.
Yeah, almost on cue there, Jack Peart, and that was something that I didn't know he had in his game when he was coming down from St. Cloud, and this was a howitzer. And I remember the first goal he scored in Chicago, about 5 games into his pro career. It was very similar. He got about a full zone run at one and just hammered it home. He's got that ability to shoot as well, and someone that Iowa thinks could maybe get some power play time, maybe be a bit of a quarterback. We've seen it here in St. Paul. Could it be something we see in Iowa this year? Only time will tell.
Wild buzzing to the task in the offensive zone. Britton will deal with that. Van Acker just too far for Green, the goal scorer, but a great move to get away from pressure. Green into the middle. Van Acker's shot didn't get much on it. And a Wild counter left to right with Rasmus Kumpalainen, finished 20-year-old. Puck went off the skate of the referee. Unfortunate for Jack O'Brien, but it all works out in the end as it's icing against Chicago, halfway marker of the second period. And nice to get a little bit of goal scoring here. You still have that feel of the tightness of the game, but it feels like there's been maybe more conversations on offense during the intermission than physicality.
What a stick lift too by Ryan Green to create that chance Green is wearing the C on his sweater today. Renzel wore it yesterday for Chicago, who's not in the lineup today, but Green ended up wearing the C also in his junior year of college. We're going to get a penalty here on Ryan.
And he hit McGuire up high. I don't think Green even saw McGuire behind him. He was trying to lift a stick. He caught McGuire where it hurts, and they're checking him to see if this will be 2 or 4.
Didn't see a signal for 4, so my guess would be just the high stick of a 2-minute variety.
Green actually could have got it a cross-check, could have called it a couple different things. Either way, 2-minute power play for the Wild, which was nullified by the Blackhawks a few minutes ago. Hayden Spellacy for the draw to the left of Flores. The Wild control off the drop here. Does a really nice job to keep it away from Misiak, who had Spellacy darting through the neutral zone if that puck got past him.
As a former defenseman, that's a panic moment. Puck's bouncing back to the line. You got 2 guys coming right at you, and you know there's no one behind you but an opposing player. And he gambled, and I like a riverboat gambler, so I'll take that play. That's a great play from Peart.
Puck jumps off the stick of Haight, and that'll allow Parrott to clear down the rink. Stopped by Watsky. Takes a flyby from Misiak, and the Wild set it up. 45 into their power play and a 1-1 game in the final contest of this weekend's Prospect Showcase. Harding back on it for Chicago. Gave it away to Peart. Across the blue line, Banach now fed down to the goal line. Haight will play catch with Banach. At the circle, they look for options. They've got Haight set up in the bumper. This is Urov. He'll let it go, and Flores had a clean lane. That was well defended by Chicago, making sure that their rookie goaltender had the eyes.
Yep, good job by the Blackhawks to make sure that they cleared the front of the net so that Flores could see the puck from the point. No harm, no foul for Chicago.
It's the look you're looking for, right? But there's just one key element missing. Every goalie that you're going to see at this level is going to make that save. That shot becomes a lot more difficult with even one body. If you can get a few more there, it goes from about an A-grade variety chance to a C if you don't have anybody there.
Good rush from Harrison Israels, who challenges Masters down low and kills off a few more valuable seconds. He's down on his knees, but he's happy with just keeping the puck right there. Thompson will pop in and help out. Down to half a minute remaining on this Wild power play. And Thompson still, again, a thorn in the backside right now of Minnesota. They're just trying to set it up and get a breakout. This is Ryan McGuire, who drew the penalty. He took the cross-check to the face from Green. Sop. Good feed to get it down low to Masters. Curlin dragging a sharp angle shot. Had to be turned aside by Flores. He locates the next one from Masters and finally thwarts it out. That was through a whole host of bodies from Masters, not once but twice.
Well, that whole scramble too starts with, and you pointed it out, Dana, a nice pass from Sop at the blue line. He was stick handling in a broom closet up there. He had a lot of bodies around him. There weren't a lot of lanes, but it's hard to be patient at the blue line sometimes because you're nervous about what might happen if you lose it. He did a great job of it there.
Klippenstein, he'll motor in. Mast recovers. Wild hold in. Blast from the blue line. Juicy rebound just past Klippenstein. He was just wrong-handed a little bit, trying to get it to his backhand. Another shot through traffic. Fought off by Flores. Mast battling down low. Minnesota starting to make things a little bit more difficult for Owen Flores down low. Not to say that his first period was all that easy, but there's definitely been a few more bodies in front of him here in period number 2.
Well, you're starting to see Minnesota connecting on some passes too a little bit more.
Here's Cook. That shot blocked. Mast valiantly got in front of it. 7 minutes to go in the second. Torini, he'll walk the blue line. Nice little handoff for Sop. Motors down the wall. Powers to the front. Couldn't complete the play by the back post. Onto the stick of Klippenstein. Green takes the hit to make the play. They'll send it down. Chicago could start to make a change, though maybe ill-advised. Haight, he'll ladle it in front. Flores with a dynamic save going right to left. Denial at the goal line, and he keeps the game tied. Here comes Israels into the zone. He'll shoot high over the bar. A wave at it for Watsky. Israel stops it along the pads, and Watsky keeps the pillows down. Here's Harding in the offensive zone. He opened the scoring for Chicago last night. Look to the back door. Shot rings off the iron. That was let go by Owen Robinson, who is fresh off the bench. He'll get it on the exchange. Good countering shift from the Hawks. At the left point, Parrott finds a man. Harding at the circle. Into the front. Spellacy had his stick lifted. Parrott loaded up like he was going to shoot. Then held it in front. Spellacy. And a great save from Watsky, who says no to the prospect in front. Good action end to end both sides here with 5:49 to go in the second.
You can just feel the urgency as freshmen, hasn't it?
Both goaltenders are putting on shows right now on both ends. Grade A scoring chances for both Chicago and Minnesota, but neither of them can find the back of the net. It's a nice goalie duel we got going on right now.
It sure is. You're starting to see a little bit of what was channeled into the physicality of period one is now being channeled into just urgency with and without the puck for all these different players on both sides. This has turned into a real fun hockey game.
Here's Top. He'll skate through neutral ice. Off the stick. Haight and Kuzman's there for Chicago. Nathan Bain, who's got good size and frame. Not one of the very highly touted early rounders for Chicago, but someone, Charlie, that you think has got a pretty decent future and has turned a few heads in Chicago. And what maybe the third rounder can do, he keeps it alive here down low to Thompson.
I thought he had a couple of really good looks in the game yesterday against St. Louis. There was one shift specifically, he had 2 scoring chances, tried to go on his backhand, and then a few seconds later found himself in the slot, but just sailed it over the net. So I really like what he can provide. And I know as a mid-round pick, Ashton Cumbie getting into it. By the way, I got distracted earlier. I didn't see exactly what happened, but Marty Mishiak took a hit in the corner, and he's been in some pain on the bench. So we'll see if he comes out for his next shift. The trainers are still looking at him, which is something to monitor. This is his 3rd tournament at the Tom Kurvers Showcase.
Little under 5 to go in the second. Goal aside here in the middle period. Masters up at the blue line. Couple of good head fakes. Got away from Van Acker. Charges down and shot it off the outside of the netting. Had a couple Wild fans halfway out of their seats. Blast from the blue line goes wide. Rebound corralled in by Klippenstein. Minnesota setting up shop at the offensive end. Masters shot intentionally wide. There's the rebound he was hoping for. But the Blackhawks home to it with Merrick Van Acker. Brantford Bulldog is leveled up on the entry by Kyle Masters. He goes flipping over top. Harding got a piece of it on the Wild entry. That forces them off sides. Merrick Van Acker, another one of those forwards for the Blackhawks that has a decent chance, you would think, of going back to Brantford this year, but his mindset, of course, is making sure that he's putting in the work last week and into these next couple of weeks, and I think that's a mindset of probably 95% of the guys on the ice this weekend.
The Blackhawks in 3 consecutive drafts have drafted somebody from the Brantford Bulldogs. First it was Nick Lardis, then it was Merrick Van Acker, and then Parker Holmes this past year in the NHL draft. He is a pure enforcer, and so that is exactly why they got him. But yeah, Van Acker, I think the Hawks really like his upside and the chemistry that he has developed with Nick Lardis over in Brantford.
Interesting how you see those pipelines develop, right? You look at Minnesota's side, and it's so heavily WHL focused. Who are your scouts? Where did they play? Where are they located? Do those scouts hit on certain players? it's so interesting to see, and I'm sure you look around the National Hockey League, and that's what you're going to see. Where do the pipelines come from? And clearly, as you guys point out, Brantford, a place that the Hawks are honing in on.
Well, there's a lot of, at least in Chicago's eyes, I hear some of their scouts when they say, oh yeah, we went to scout our own player and then this guy jumped out at us. And so it was like, we went to go to see how Lardis was developing and Merrick Van Acker, and then Parker Holmes jumped out on the screen. So it's funny how things like that work out.
Well, it helps probably last year when you're watching 71 highlight clips of Lardis. Someone else on the ice has to stand out.
Well, and who helped him get 71? Right? You know, those are the questions that I'm sure if you're going to those games, you're asking. It's like, yes, Lardis is the talisman piece, but hockey's a team sport. You're not going to go out there and do that all by your lonesome. So who are the guys that helped him get to that number?
If you were a Brantford Bulldogs season ticket holder last year, you had to go through a lot of hats if you went to every single game for Nick Lardis hat tricks.
You think you probably start coming to games with hats that you're okay.
Yeah.
You know, the first one, okay. The second one, you're like, I don't want to throw the hat. The third one, you're like, all right, I'm going to go maybe buy some hats that I'm willing to part with.
So like,
great observation.
You're like, I'm just gonna load up on 5 hats for the year, and every hat I'm gonna wear. And you just kind of go through the rotation.
Or bring a second hat to the game. Yes. You got your wearing hat, and then you got one in your back pocket.
A hat trick hat. That's a great idea.
That's a good marketing piece.
Haight comes burning in. He was forced a little bit wide. And the battle ensues at the near corner in the Chicago zone. Robinson got a touch on it. Good keep it at the line by McKenzie. And it cashes up into the netting. Okay, we'll call it hat trick hat. Don't want to throw your own? Here's a hat trick hat.
I was about to say, are we going to see this in Rockford first or Iowa?
It's the equivalent of the white goalie helmet. Just a complete
the emergency goalie white helmet.
Right. I'm calling our marketing director after this game. I got an idea. Get it done.
As long as it's an Ice Hogs and Wild game, then we're okay.
Oh, we got 10 of them to pick from, which oddly enough, not 12 this year.
I know. Oh,
I'm a little sad about it.
How will we live?
How will we?
Good thing we got 12 against Chicago and Milwaukee. Shots this period have been pretty heavily favoring Minnesota. They've had a good frame, even though they didn't get the first goal. That belonged to Ryan Green, but Owen Flores, after making 13 saves in the first period, has now seen 11 shots already. Sees a 12th go flying up and over the bar. Rebound stuck in behind the net. Chicago can't clear. Another attempt from the blue line. Flores came way out of the blue paint to greet that one.
Flores is without a stick, but Ashton Cumbie just slid it over, so he's quickly retrieved it.
He has been aggressive, Flores, and you wonder if you can't maybe start to get some shot fakes in there, get him to go out too deep or too far.
Spellacy turns and fires from the bottom of the circle. That was thwarted away. Spellacy, Misiak, and Harrison Israels. Trio out on the ice for Chicago. Israels gets an intercept, trying to lead out Misiak, who's playing in his 3rd prospect showcase. Spellacy swings wide. Chicago changes on the fly. 100 seconds to go in period number 2. Parrott with the keep in of the glove variety. Did a great job to play it away. Here's Misiak. He'll delay and fire it off the crossbar. It rings out, and the rebound falls for Boehm. Parrott straight away, walks the line. Boehm one-timer. Nice block from Urov, who hung out right in the middle of the slot. Threw his body in front, and look out. That was a heavy check right in front of the Minnesota bench that Parrott let go, and then he gets a takedown of Stevie Leskovar, who you told us before the game, Ben, is someone to watch for that exact activity.
Yeah, 243 penalty minutes in 160 OHL games. With him on the ice and a hit like that thrown, not surprised to see him like a heat-seeking missile come flying from his own zone, but yeah, Andrew Parrott's no shrinking violet either, and took more of a WWE approach to this fight than a boxing match.
We're one more fight away from the fight hat trick. So speaking of, there's no Gordie Howe hat tricks going on yet, but
what would you throw for a fight hat trick? A glove? If you have gloves on in the game, like some warm gloves.
Got to bring a boxing glove next time.
I don't know if that promotion is going to have a lot of legs. We'll test it out. Final minute of the period. Aiden Thompson, indirect pass for Bain. That was a nice little look through the neutral zone. You're seeing more of those passes connect from both sides as the game gets on and the chemistry grows. Whistle from behind the play. The referee in the neutral zone makes the call, I believe, on Tage Harding for interference.
Tage doesn't agree. It's actually an old AAA hockey teammate of mine, Andrew Brueggemann, making the call from the red line there.
Look at the shout out.
Tage didn't seem to be too happy with that.
Now that play was Harding just trying to, as a defenseman, seal off that wing and prevent any sort of rush going the other way, and ruled that he got a little bit too much contact on it. So Minnesota will go to its third power play of this second period. If they can't score, it'll carry over onto some clean ice in the third period.
It's been a much different story this afternoon on the power play than it was against St. Louis. See if they can't tighten it up here a bit.
Nice move from Pierre. It looks for the stick of Haight. It just rolled off his twig. He's got it here, but he was looking at a yawning Cage. Benok at the circle. Flores gobbles it up. Rebound off the outside of the net from Haight, who's run into by Spellacy. And Chicago gets a much-needed clear.
A combo of fantastic chances there. That first one from Peart, you guys know it, a vertical pass like that. Anytime you see one of those, it's so much more difficult than it looks. And Haight just an unfortunate bounce, or otherwise it's 2-1.
Because as a goaltender, of course, you're loading up for shot. And when that doesn't come immediately, you got to reload. 5 seconds remaining for Minnesota to go to work. Benok won't get one more off. And we head to period number 3, tied at 1. Goal aside here in the second period. Gentlemen, thoughts coming out of a pretty good 20 where we see a little goal scoring and also some fisticuffs.
Yeah, it feels like we got a little bit of everything that period. We saw some goals, we saw some power plays, and we saw another fight in this game.
Yeah, and again, a little bit of a different feeling period than we saw in the first, but still the same narrative. The goaltenders have been fantastic. Watzke not as busy that period, obviously, as Flores was, but for a guy that you guys didn't know a whole lot about coming into this game, Flores is making himself a nice sample size of play here. He's been excellent. Minnesota finding their game a little bit there. Some power plays helping to maybe shift the momentum back to the side of Minnesota, and it's a game that's up in the air. It's up for grabs, and we'll see what the third brings, but obviously Minnesota hopes to just keep doing what they did in that period, which was have a lot of the puck.
The Wild outshoot the Blackhawks 14-4 in the second. And when we come back, more action for third period highlights, and we're joined by Kyle Davidson, Blackhawks general manager. We've got that next, but before, Grand Casino Arena, a new name to get used to in Minnesota. Let's learn more about it here at the Tom Kurvers Prospect Showcase.
Ojibwe welcomes you to Grand Casino Arena.
Bonjour, welcome.
Welcome to our community. Welcome to our history.
Welcome to the state of hockey.
Anin, Wagush Indigenous Cause, Biju and Dudem, Mrs. Eigening and Dun Jabba. My name is Virgil Wind, and I proudly serve as the Chief Executive of the non-removable Mille Lacs Band of Ojibwe. On behalf of our sovereign nation and all who call this land home, we're proud to welcome you to Grand Casino Arena. This partnership is more than just a name. It's a story of visibility, a story of opportunity, a story of Native leadership helping to shape the future of Minnesota.
We just see a really good meshing of our two brands and how we value the fan experience and the opportunity to make once-in-a-lifetime memories when they're in the building, and Grand Casino's vision really aligns with that.
It definitely elevates the Mille Lacs Band's story, their heritage, the progress that we made, the impact in terms of the Minnesota economy. It also reflects our economic strength and impact overall in regards to Native American or tribal-owned businesses.
We have roots here, both of us do, and this is our home. So to tell that story together and find the common grounds that exist between the Minnesota Wild and Grand Casino and the Ojibwe tribe is our goal, and I'm excited to work on that with them.
This gives us a wonderful opportunity to share the culture of the Ojibwe and all the amazing things that they have done as a people with our hockey community.
As we celebrate every game, celebrate every goal and every fan, know that together we are part of something bigger, a community rooted in tradition, rising with purpose. Miigwech for being here, enjoy the game, and let's go Wild.
Back in St. Paul, a 1-1 game between the Wild and the Blackhawks at the final day of the Tom Kurvers Prospect Showcase. Dana Gray, Charlie Romoliotis with you. Happy to be joined by the general manager of the Blackhawks, Kyle Davidson. Thanks so much for taking some time with us, Kyle. On a weekend like this, and even going back into this week at Fifth Third, how proud are you of this prospect pool that you guys have worked really hard over the last few years to develop, and now you're really getting to see it come to fruition?
Yeah, no, it's an exciting time for sure to, first draft these players a couple of years ago, and you watch them through their amateur careers and in the development process, and then seeing them mature and develop until the point they're playing here in rookie tournaments and attending main camp is really exciting.
Two of the guys we were highlighting yesterday are obviously Sam Renzel and Artem Levshinov. They're going to be pillars for you on the back end. A, how nice was it to see them yesterday start strong, and then B, how much are you looking forward to seeing what they could do over the course of an 82-game season in the NHL?
Well, yeah, no, it's really exciting to see the start they got off to, and that's one of the keys with having them attend rookie camp and these rookie tournaments is you want them to have a good start to the season, but get a little bit of a pressure test before they get to main camp, and then hopefully that puts them in a good spot to have a good camp, start the season well, and then continue into the season well as well.
It's a lot of exciting times across the organization. You think of Rockford and in Chicago with two new head coaching hires. I assume that Jared Nightingale's 2 games he played for Jeff Blashill in Grand Rapids did not have anything to do with that, but how much excitement do you have with both of those guys and the confidence that they're going to run both the benches in the AHL and NHL respectively?
Yeah, it didn't really weigh into the reason we hired Jared, but we knew Jared well from his time in Rockford, and then both as a player and as a coach, and then but their previous relationship, and they do have a great one, is definitely an asset. The communication, the collaboration between the two teams and two coaching staffs is going to be really important to us, and just really excited to first of all get some early work done with both coaching staffs and head coaches, but really excited about what they're going to do with their respective teams this year.
You also got a little bit of business done yesterday in signing Spencer Knight to a 3-year extension. Also signed Frank Nazar earlier in the summer. How nice is that to get out of the way with while you're looking at the financial picture in the long term, locking these young guys that are going to be core players moving forward?
No, absolutely. That the cap planning and the budgeting aspect of building the Blackhawks is a major piece to building a successful team in our league, and so that was really big for us to get 2 young pillars kind of locked up for the next number of years, and really excited about being able to get that business done and kind of let them focus on the hockey now and just continue their development in their careers.
With Frank Nazar specifically, he started last year in this tournament,
yep,
and then kind of forced your hand last year by outperforming maybe expectations in Rockford. You call him up sooner, and now he earns a 7-year contract. What can you talk about his growth starting from last year and then through the World Championships last summer?
Well, yeah, and that's the thing about young players' development. You don't really know how that trajectory is going to play out, and it's rarely linear. It's rarely just an upward trajectory, and sometimes you have to reassess and spend some time in the minors, and he did that. He did it with a great attitude. Obviously, performed very, very well to the point that we couldn't have him stay there any longer, and then continued that upward movement once he got to the Blackhawks, and then carried it right through into World Championships, and Frank's someone we've always been high on, but I think he just, the second half of last year and then also how he started in Rockford just gave us all the confidence in the world that he's going to be a big-time player for us.
Lastly, how do you view that opportunity for a player to go down to Rockford, especially here in the next couple of weeks as we're going to be seeing rosters finalized? As fans see a guy maybe being sent to the AHL, that doesn't necessarily have to be a bad thing. What would your plea be to folks for some of these younger guys to really go get their first taste of pro hockey at the AHL level?
Well, I think for a lot of players, the AHL is just necessary. It's a required step to get to where they want to be, and it doesn't mean there's anything wrong with their development. Doesn't mean there's anything going wrong with their path. It's just that's a big piece, and it's a big step in from amateur hockey to pro hockey, and sometimes it takes a couple of years. You look at a guy like Duncan Keith, who's going into the Hall of Fame in the fall here, and he didn't establish himself until he was 22. He spent a couple of years in the AHL, and that's totally normal. It's an absolutely natural aspect of the growth of a young player, and we love the system we've got in Rockford, and we're going to use it to our benefit and to the benefit of our players.
Last one for me. There were still some veterans on the roster last year to kind of provide us stopgaps while you waited for some of the younger guys to grow. But this coming season feels like the keys are being handed to the young kids. How much are you looking forward to that, to see their growth, not just individually, but collectively as a unit?
No, that's a huge part of it, and you see the camaraderie that they do have even early on or I should say at the end of the season last year, and then you kind of see them working out in the summer and starting now into the training camp, and they travel in packs and they love being around each other, and it's really exciting and growing that kind of brotherhood and on the way up in their development was something that we wanted to see, and this is something we are seeing, and their development as hockey players last year gave us the confidence that a lot of them will be able to step into full-time roles in the NHL this year. It's just going to be up to them to determine who those guys are. So.
Kyle Davidson, General Manager of the Chicago Blackhawks. Thanks for joining us. We got a good third period coming up, 1-1 game as we close out the Prospects Showcase. Back in a moment here from St. Paul.
together. Book your unique and exclusively priced group experience today.
Born and raised in the state of hockey, Tom Kurvers found success at every stage of his hockey career.
From the University of Minnesota Duluth, Tom Kurvers.
He was probably one of the most gifted offensive hockey players that I ever had a chance to coach. 76 points in 43 games was phenomenal.
Tom holds virtually every career scoring record for Duluth defensemen.
His senior year was magical. All the team success we had, I think he was the league MVP, the Hobie Baker Award winner, and just had an outstanding college career.
Following collegiate success, Kurvers entered the National Hockey League with the Montreal Canadiens in 1984.
For us two to be rookies and break in the way we did, things weren't going great for the Canadiens back, and then to have the season that we did was almost too good to be true.
Cross for Kurvers and a blast scores!
Of all the really good defensemen we had, he was the best power play guy. There's two types of hockey players, the guys who won the Stanley Cup and the guys who wish they did. And Tom and I were part of Group 1.
The Canadiens will win the Stanley Cup!
After an 11-year NHL career, Kurvers began a new hockey chapter, first as a radio broadcaster and later in management with the Coyotes, Lightning, and Minnesota Wild.
When I got involved with the Phoenix Coyotes, Tom was working for the hockey club, and right away our kind of hockey minds together clicked.
Our time in Tampa together, both kind of similar backgrounds as former players, we had certainly a lot in common.
Tom was just such a great listener and always had just great feedback or advice, and I really relied on him a lot.
He was a great hockey player, but he was more than that. He helped people from all walks of life with whatever problems they may present to him. And as a man, I am so proud of him as his father.
I use a handful of words to describe Tom, but the one word that comes to mind above all the rest was humility. Tom led with humility. He had a disdain for arrogance and ego, and if you displayed any of it, you were done.
The big thing about Tom was that he cared. He cared about people.
That was what Tom Kurvers was about. It was never about him. It was what he could do for other people. The last thing he told me, he loved me, and I'll never forget that.
And I just miss him.
Minnesota at Tria Rink for the start of the third period. 1-1 score between the Hawks and the Wild. Dana Gray, Ben Gislason, and Charlie Remuliotis here. We got some highlights from the second, starting off with this goal from Ryan Green that might have gone off a stick, but still was a great shot.
Yeah, Chicago got on the board first. Great shot by Ryan Green, and then Minnesota answering back. I thought it was good goaltending performance. Each side had goals to show for it, but the chippiness that we saw in the first period also carried over into the second.
And it took 2 great shots to beat these goalies, and that's a goal-scoring area right in between the pad and the glove. You'll see scorers at the NHL level go there all the time, and we talked about it, both teams channeling that same urgency and energy we saw in the first, but not quite as much about the after-whistle activity as the in-between whistle activity, and that led to a really good brand of hockey, and hopefully we see even that amplified more in this tie game, period 3.
Final period of the showcase, of course, unless overtime is needed, which we did have last night. So who knows what's to come, but we do know that Ben Gislason has got you the rest of the way. Maybe we'll come up with more theme nights here in the
That was my favorite part of the show so far, to be honest, guys. And I hope that somewhere there are some marketing people from the Iowa Wild and Rockford Ice Hogs listening that, we'll see who jumps on it first. I mean, we'll see who's paying attention at home is what we'll see.
Tell you what, my email is going to be blowing up tomorrow morning at 9:01.
I'm still trying to find a way to elbow my way into that gravy boat that's going to be later on. So just, if you see an address that's to Chicago, that's probably me.
You're putting a lot of pressure on me to try to make some overtures from down in Iowa this year. Look, I got a couple of guys that really, really want the gravy boat. What can you do for me?
But they're from Chicago, so how do we do this?
I'm going to leave that out. I'm not going to put that asterisk next to that request if I want to get it done. Let's just say that.
Thank you.
Teams will flip ends here for the third, a 1-1 hockey game. And Minnesota will start with some time left on a penalty to Tage Harding of Chicago, so it'll be 5-on-4 to open the third, tied at 1. Let's see what's in store here in the grand finale of the Tom Kurvers Prospect Showcase.
It's got to be nice to have a power play on fresh sheet of ice too, with no TV timeouts or anything. The ice was getting a little chippy towards the end of that second period.
A lot of hockey has been played on it over the last 3 days now, culminating in this afternoon finishing game between Chicago and Minnesota. Offside there against the Wild. Look there at Adam Binock, who was the talk of the town after that Friday night performance, 3 assists, and there was a lot more that the coaching staff was talking about in his game on Saturday when the Wild had a day off. Binock selected this past draft in the 4th round after a fabulous season in the USHL with Youngstown. Yurov motors in and sends hard off the referee's thigh in the corner. Saw him look skyward after that. Looks all right though. Binock at the right circle, slips one on the goal. There's a flashy pad save from Flores as he denies height on the rebound.
Continues to have just really strong rebound control. That was not an easy shot initially to stop, but then to get selective with where you want to put the puck. It's pretty impressive stuff from the youngster.
Stretch pass ahead, and Peart was able to cut it short at the red line. That was Van Acker, who had slipped his way behind everyone. Power play has expired. Wild unable to capitalize, and we return to even strength hockey here early on in the third, tied at 1.
Boy, if that puck got through, Van Acker was wide open for a breakaway.
Would have been interesting to see what the first rounder could have done with that. Another Brantford connection. Israel's in his own zone. Going in for the big hit there was Jack O'Brien. He took the worst of it though from Ashton Cumby, who's played with a chip on his shoulder all afternoon.
I think Cumby had 13 fights in the WHL last season, so he's not afraid to mix it up.
That one comes off wide of the net. Klippenstein to get it. And behind for Kumpalainen. Back to the right point. Kyle Masters waits and fires wide of the net.
Cumby is ailing a little bit in front of the net. I think after he took a shot off the foot, it looked like.
Those can be long shifts.
It catches you in the wrong spot. That's going to be hard to take your skate off later.
Striding his way across the line. Lardis leaves it for Jack Pridham. That bounces right in front. They score. A fortuitous bounce, and Ryan Gagne takes the lead for Chicago.
Ryan Gagne is a guy that we saw in Rockford for about half of the season last year and was really starting to find some confidence up into the month of March, and then was out for the rest of the year with injury. Didn't get to play playoffs. I was talking with him yesterday, and he says that everything just feels 100%. It's kind of the first time that he's not had that feeling for a while. So just to have that going into a full season, excited to see what the lefty can do, and pretty opportunist bounce for him. But still, there's been a few of those so far this afternoon where the goaltenders have robbed what would be sure goals.
Well, as goal scorers will tell you, it's not lucky, it's being in the right place at the right time.
You ever hear goaltenders talk about if, post shots, like, oh, there were 3 posts, if half of those went in or whatever, they're like, well, my job is to cover the post.
Oh, they count those as saves for sure. They don't count it in the score sheet as saves, but goalies definitely will tell you. Well, I forced the shooter there.
Yes, exactly.
All tongue-in-cheek. So a 2-1 lead here for the Hawks. Minnesota will play from behind once again. They gave up the opening goal of the hockey game in the second period. Responded, though, nicely with Mayor Mamadovsky's second of the tournament. But they're behind as we still have plenty of hockey left here in St. Paul. Gagne, the most recent goal scorer, churning to the blue line. Bushler lost a handle on it. Down to get it is Ryan McGuire. That bounces away from Kuzman. Scooped up by Bushler as Kuzman gets stapled by Jordan Torini. Amadovsky galloping ahead, cut away at the blue line by Bushler. He'll thrust ahead. Ethan McKenzie diving in to knock the puck loose. Boehm takes a crunch from Amadovsky. Wild back in control with Torini. He's played his junior hockey with Schwinnigan in the QMJHL. He'll defend here as Boehm tried to work around Matt Sopp. Sopp's pass connecting with Amadovsky. Puts the pedal to the metal through center ice. Takes a bump in the back from Harding. Trying to slash it in was Top. It bounces. Here's Hunter Haight, and a save made by Flores. Again, way out to cut down the angle. Another bounce and a wrister high of the net by Owen Robinson. Over from the far circle, Haight will carve ahead. Has Bennock with them. Haight's drive blockered away by Flores. And we had a really good look at that, guys. Again, Flores coming way out. We could see what Haight had to shoot at. He had to go through him if he was going to score there. There was nothing to see.
We've talked a lot about the rebound control, but his angles have been perfect. Every single shot that he's faced, I've certainly felt like he's been in the right spot that you'd want to attack it. Even if it is coming well out, he's picking his spots and making sure that he's not getting himself into dangerous areas. I've been really impressed with both Chicago goaltenders this weekend so far.
Jack Peart hurrying ahead. Just shy of 5 in for this third period. Ryan Gagne making it 2-1 moments ago. A backdoor pass for Yurov, and he fans on it. Great feed out of the corner. I think it was Haight who made the pass, and Yurov will look skywards on that as he knows that was a golden chance.
Yurov had a wide open net. It looked like Flores had a difficult time moving to his right. He kind of got his right pad stuck and just kind of had to throw the stick at it. So it was a wide open net, and unfortunately for Minnesota, they couldn't capitalize.
Should note here as we cruise through this third period, a goaltending change for Minnesota. Chase Wutzke, his day is over. A good day for Chase. Into the game goes Will Rousseau. Played half the game on Friday night. Gave up 2 goals in that game. Both were backdoor tap-ins he had no chance at. Paraphrasing, talking with our goaltending coach Richard Bachman earlier in the day. Rousseau, a fabulous rookie season with the Iowa Heartlanders, Minnesota and Iowa's ECHL affiliate near Iowa City, Iowa. 17-7-5, a .238 goals against and a .921 save percentage. Helped the Heartlanders to their first ever playoff berth in the ECHL, and came up in some spells for Iowa and had some great nights. Signed again a 2-way deal to be an option for the Wild in Iowa or the Heartlanders this year. Mike Kester for the Wild finds his defensive partner Kyle Masters. Slung ahead, Rasmus Kumpelainen takes it across the offensive blue line. tried to shuttle it to the near wall. Lardis was in the way. Picked up by Bushler, whose stretch pass finds Jack Pridham. The Stouffville Ontarian lost it. Klippenstein able to navigate it past Israels and in deep. Guzman for Bushler. Bushler looking long across the Wild logo of center, and it bounces into the clutches of Will Rousseau out of Trois-Rivières, Quebec.
Should mention also, too, that throughout that intermission, I think going right into the second intermission, I gave you your shot totals for the second period, which have been wildly adjusted heading into the third. They've got Owen Flores right now with 34 saves.
I don't think Flores will care at all that they're upping the shot counts. I think goalies will usually like to see that, especially when there's only a 1 on their side of the scoreboard. Time for McKenzie. Flared ahead. Dropped in by McGuire. There to get it is Harding. McGuire intervenes. Harding's pass intercepted. A look in front for a drive that never got to the net. The second try does. McGuire on the goal. Flores another save. Cody Dupuis to the blue line for Lescavar, and Flores does a tremendous job of just freezing that puck. That one came through some traffic in front, and Harding going at it there on the far post with Cash Cook of Minnesota.
I don't see A.J. Spellacy on the Chicago bench in this period. They went through a couple of their rotations. I'm just now realizing that we haven't seen that bowling ball yet. He's been involved in all of the action in this game, so not sure what happened, but I'm sure we'll get more clarity from Jared Nightingale after the game.
When he's been on the ice this afternoon, he's been noticeable and often heard by the thud of the plexiglass. 13-15. Time of our third period here in St. Paul. On the counterattack, Chicago a feet in front, and Boehm had that get under his stick before he could fire. Ben Gislason, Dana Gray, and Charlie Romeliotis on the call here this afternoon. Hope you've enjoyed the journey so far. And whether it's home opener against the Blue Jackets or a division collision with the Blackhawks, the Minnesota Wild has saved you a seat. Tickets to the full Minnesota Wild schedule are on sale now. Buy yours today at wild.com/tickets. One of the most recent, most famous Iowa Wild alums on the screen there in Matt Boldy. What a pleasure it was to get to watch him. A small sample size with Iowa after he came out of Boston College. Has become a household name since then.
You can kind of tell those guys, you think of maybe a Frank Nazar on the Chicago side, that you're excited to see him in the AHL, but it's probably not going to be for too long. But we heard from Kyle Davidson during the intermission. I think both these organizations, they just value that experience at the AHL so much. I don't want to flub his quote, but I think he said for almost every single player, the AHL is necessary, and that doesn't have to be looked at as a negative thing. Instead, it can be viewed as such a positive.
The Blackhawks specifically really like to utilize the AHL as a way to develop their players away from the spotlight. It's worked so well from them. Frank Nazar last year, Alex Vlasic a couple years ago, spending a full season in Rockford, playing in all those situations. And so Chicago does a really nice job of using the Ice Hogs as a developmental opportunity to get those guys ready for the NHL, so that way when they do make it to the NHL, they don't see the minors again.
Look on the goal that Jack O'Brien deflects away, then he chases it down. Couldn't find Kupalainen, and this one slashed out to neutral by Pridham. And from the Minnesota side, you think about players like Marco Rossi, who spent 2 seasons with the Iowa Wild. They were in no hurry to bring him up. Seems to be a successful time waiting for him to get ready. His multiple 20-goal seasons for Rossi, just signing a new contract this summer. Boldy some time there. Jesper Wallstedt a couple of seasons. He's likely going to be the number 2, at least for starters this year, to Philip Gustafsson in goal. Now Stevie Lescovar stepping in. They score! Tipped in front. It's Jack O'Brien in a tie game.
It's a really good look from Lescovar, who had all the time in the world to load this up. I'm pretty positive that it was O'Brien's stick that he was searching for. He put it there for Platham, gave him the target, and Lescovar meets it to tie the game up.
One of those shots, too, where you take a second to think, am I going to beat the goalie here? Clean, maybe. There was a little screen in front, but those little deft deflections, those guys arriving at the net to just get a little redirect on it can make the world of difference in a play like that. So you called it, Dana. Well seen. Nice read from Lescovar, and Jack O'Brien has his first of the weekend, and back and forth we go here in this showdown on Sunday, a 2-2 day.
Both goaltenders have been excellent in this game, and it's needed a snipe from Ryan Green. It's needed a deflection in front of Owen Flores to find the back of the net in this game. So no surprise that there are some greasy goals in this game to beat both goaltenders who have been on their A game all night, all afternoon. Put a quarter in the jar. Two quarters? All right, I'll put 2 quarters.
Only 2 to this point is an impressive day. Another deflected shot just wide.
Just gonna just give a $5 bill the next time we're together and like this should cover me till the second period.
I take IOUs. Hoisted puck through center from Harding. Matt Sopp back to get it. Former Kitchener Ranger all the way ahead. Hunter Haight speeding in, and a stop from Flores. Well, Haight has had easily the most chances today for Minnesota. Flores has had his number all but one time, and it was an errant hop that kept him off the score sheet back in the second period. Some great opportunities for Haight here this afternoon. Flores has had an answer for all of them, though. Bame saucering one back for Bushler. The return feed to the Calgary Albertan. Blazing into the right-hand corner, takes a bump from McKenzie. Hunter Haight will slash ahead. Could be a 3-on-2 here for Minnesota. Kester onto his backhand. It bounces to Sopp, trying to swim away from Green on the far wall. McKenzie, his shot off a skate in front. Bame is there for Chicago. However, he doesn't get it past Mike Kester. Chaska, Minnesotan at 24 years of age, in behind the net of Flores with 9:36 to play.
These are really valuable situations, I think. I would assume that both folks on the Minnesota and Chicago side are pretty happy that the game is going this way, especially just looking at last night, too, against St. Louis. You know, you get these high-pressure situations, close games. It's just good experience.
And a lengthy shift for McKenzie. Makes a slippery move out to his right. Yurov floating across the blue line. Holds up along the left-hand wall. All the way across. A shot comes in from top. It bounces. Benok is there. Looks in front. Here's Yurov, and it's deflected wide. Another dazzling feed from behind the net by the Czech-born Benok. And Yurov will take it back and slam it off the glass and in deep. Mast is there for Chicago. Kumpalainen will get to this puck first. No one on the other end of that target, and so the Hawks get back in possession. Nick Lardis angles one towards Aiden Thompson. I still haven't seen Spellacy to this point, Charlie. I think you did a nice job catching that.
I thought it was too quiet at the beginning of the third period. And I was like, wait a second, where's number 79?
Lardis looking long, misses everybody, but doesn't have enough to make icing. Jack Peart is there. Slides away from the forechecking Robinson at the red line. Our most recent goal scorer in Jack O'Brien out of Denver, Colorado. Masters patiently backwards. Jack Peart brushes it across the red line. Peart in on the forecheck, hems it around for Klippenstein. Nifty move, tried to make one more, but that one was sorted out by Parrott.
These are some of the moments, too, that you start to look at what's happened over the last 24 hours. Might be looking a little too inside baseball, but Chicago played a pretty lengthy game yesterday, going in overtime intensity, and Minnesota had a practice day, and maybe that's why you're starting to see the ice shifted a little bit. There's been a few more offensive zone shifts of the lengthy variety from Minnesota here in the back half of the third.
Cook's pass for McGuire. Tried to wire it across to Cody Dupuis. This pass from the Hawks intercepted. McKenzie rolling in. He waits back door and a save you had to see to believe from Owen Flores, my Stars. Blocker stop. McKenzie's drive blocked in front by Kuzman.
My goodness, what a save by Owen Flores. That was on the 40th shot of the game, too.
Dupuis looking to the glove. That one's knocked down by Flores as well. What a day for the Chicago-born Flores. Full extension on the back post. Bame skirts around McKenzie. Loose puck. Here's Green, high of the net. And covering that on the apron is Will Rousseau, but let's collect our thoughts and go back to that save. In any league at any level, this one's a highlight reel caliber stop. Goodness.
Well, he's moved laterally so well, and even though he might have been pulled a little bit out of position with the great flash of the left pillow. Oh my goodness, and that's exactly what he was trying to do too. That wasn't a Hail Mary. He knew that there's a good chance that if a shot's coming, his best hope was the left pad, and that's what got it.
What seems even more remarkable about the stop is watching that replay. You're right, he was out of position. He pushed himself too far to the right, and he somehow, in a dazzling fashion,
so
was
you're
across
saying
in a blur.
He wasn't out of position, actually.
Exactly how he
Just
drew it
how
up.
he did it.
Not sure if your goaltending coach Matt Smith would agree with that, but hey, a save's a save. I do know that. Now Haight in the high slot. Great feed. Sop tried to put it off the back of Flores, and Flores was able to keep that out. Knocked down in front. Amadovsky can't get away with it. Instead, it's Ryan Green through center. Newfoundland-born 21-year-old will punch it in with 5:18 to go. Things getting dramatic here in St. Paul. If you've just joined us, you've joined us at a great time. Tied at 2 late in the third. Harding's drive kicked away with confidence by Will Rousseau. Here's Aiden Thompson. He runs into Riley Haight. Urov trying to nestle it loose from Thompson, and now it's Parrott back at his own blue line. Touched ahead. Martin Misiak will chase it down. He's got the puck back. He'll drop it to Harding. Looking back door. In the way of it was Kester, former captain at the University of Minnesota. Bouncing puck. Lardis in front, and Urov takes a penalty to take down Lardis, and now Chicago will have a whopper of an opportunity here to take a late lead.
It's a really good chip from Martin Misiak, who's playing in his third prospect showcase. He kind of drove that past 40 seconds. 2 entries he helped out with, a couple of good puck retrievals, and creating mayhem down low below the goal line creates the chance for Lardis. And, well, folks at home know how many he scored already last year. That's a guy you don't want to leave alone. And the Wild forced to take a penalty to prevent a really excellent scoring chance.
And it was Rowan Top, actually, who was given the gate for the slash. The proof was in the pudding. A stick lying in 2 pieces on the far side of the ice there. So as we get a look at Liram Amadovsky and Jack Peart, he'll be joined by Hunter Haight and Jordan Torini. They will be the Iron 4 needed to try to keep this game tied up at 2 with 4:37 to play, and the Hawks on a power play.
Hawks are starting their second unit because their majority of the first unit just had an extended shift there, so we'll see the first unit after they can catch their breath here.
Hunter Haight gets in the way of that shot, something he did a lot of in his rookie season with Iowa last year, on top of scoring 20 times. Really a guy that has been touted as a 200-foot center in Hunter Haight. Be interesting to see his season this year. Played a lot of last year with longtime NHL veteran Travis Boyd. Haight might be a little more responsible for driving the line he's on. Boyd was fantastic in tandem with Haight much of the year. He's off now as 40 seconds have come and gone on the penalty to Rowan Top and this Hawks power play. Harding can't surf his way in. Klippenstein will dash it back into the Hawks zone, and for Minnesota, so far so good. Boehm across the blue line, shoveled to his right. Mishiak kicked away by Will Rousseau. Amadovsky looking for a release valve in Leskovar. He finds Stevie, and down it goes.
Here comes that top unit, and like back at the second period, not a defenseman to be seen. 5 forwards.
Big burst of speed for Green between his legs. Didn't quite get all he wanted on that. It was quite a thing to watch. He did it at full speed as well. 32 seconds to go in the penalty to Minnesota. Pridham back for Green. Across the Wild logo of neutral. Plunged in behind Rousseau, who can't stop it. Leskovar can't clear. Thompson to his left. Here's Lardis looking for that near corner, and it's wide.
That's definitely the look that you want to get him, a pure goal scorer with a good look at the net.
Lardis to the goal line. Thompson onto his backhand. Rousseau's got it. A great save from Will Rousseau right as the penalty was expiring, and the Wild skirt through that penalty as we return to even strength hockey with 2:22 to play. Tied up at 2 here in St. Paul. Should be a photo finish. Thompson tripped up. Thought that might have been a penalty, but the referees say play on. Klippenstein can't clear it. Mass to his right. Thompson has his head up back door, but Masters sniffed it out, and Klippenstein launches it back to neutral, and the Wild will get a breath of fresh air and some new troops.
We are approaching next goal wins territory with under 2 minutes here in the third.
Gagne, who's got one of the 2 tonight for Chicago, fired on the net, and it's stopped by Rousseau. A quick whistle will stop the clock at 1:48 with overtime looming. And a public service announcement if we get there. 5 minutes of overtime and then a shootout if necessary. And we'll see if it is needed or not. But we are in the twilight of the day. And it looks like because we're in the twilight of the day, the sun that we've talked so much about really only a factor in the far left corner of the offensive zone for Chicago. Good news for everybody involved.
Specifically the goaltenders.
Torini up the far wall. Benak got a piece of it, but it didn't matter because he was inside of his own zone. That's an icing call against the Wild here with 1:41 remaining. Shots are 42-32 in favor of Minnesota, but the Hawks have put it on the Wild a bit here in this third period. Will Rousseau has been strong. Minnesota's defended well, and they got that timely goal from O'Brien to tie things up. Really, it's just been a tremendous hockey game. Really entertaining.
You never really know what you're going to get with these sorts of weekends when this group of players that hasn't played a lot together and had the chance to build chemistry. Not to say that, you're not going to get to see some talent, but the cohesiveness and the battle level, that's certainly been there throughout the weekend in all 3 games. And that's a victory for all 3 teams because you're gaining the experience and also getting a chance to do it in front of some pretty important pairs of eyeballs.
And it definitely felt, at least in this game today, both teams in the first a little discombobulated as a turnover has Benak get it in front and they score! It's Rasmus Kumpalainen and a late 3-2 lead.
Well, the Blackhawks turned it over below the goal line, and that's what allowed Minnesota to find themselves all in front. I think it was Dmitry Kuzmin.
Nice finish, though, from Kumpalainen, especially the way that Flores has looked great on those mano-a-mano opportunities. He only had a small window to go to the far side, and he corralled what looked like a bouncing puck. and put it into a good spot with just 61 seconds to go. Now we have to keep our eye on Flores to see when he makes his burst to the bench.
And Bennock's fourth helper of this showcase. And to talk to any goalie, anytime that puck comes from below the goal line, it is a nightmare to try to sort out your angles. And so Flores will race to the bench. Chicago will pull their goalie, trying frantically to tie the game here late as the Wild have crept in and they swept that lead out right from under the feet of Chicago, who up until that goal had been pressing at the other end.
It looks like the Blackhawks are going to take a timeout here with an offensive zone draw. 40.3 seconds left. 6-on-5 opportunity. You got Rob Klinkhammer drawing up a play there on the drawing board.
Oh, before we close out our day, join the entire roster of your Minnesota Wild on Saturday, October 4th for the first ever Drive It Wild event to benefit the Minnesota Wild Foundation. It'll be an afternoon of swings and stars, all for a great cause. For more information and to buy tickets, go to www.wild.com/driveitwild. Again, Saturday, October 4th. Well, October always gets here in a hurry. We're already looking right into the teeth of it now here in the middle of September. Minnesota and Chicago training camp will be starting very soon. Not long thereafter, American League training camps. And before we know it, we'll be at the BMO, Dana.
Oh, baby. It's waiting for you, Ben.
It's one of my favorite buildings we go to. The energy there, the intensity there, the fans right on top of you. I love coming there.
And the host of your 2026 AHL All-Star Classic, if I may.
Still time here for the Hawks. Net empty. One-timer from Lardis. That deflected in front. Might have hit Rousseau in the mask as he was shaking his helmet after that one skittered wide. 23 seconds to go. Sop will spin, going for the empty net. It's knocked down. It gets up on its edge, and fans got to the edge of their seats a bit on that, but still, the game remains 3-2 with 12 seconds to play. Green scampering in. Wild looking for a clear. Haid able to knock that one out of the air. Sop's going to get there first with 4 seconds to go. And a thrilling climax to the Tom Kurvers Prospect Showcase as the Wild on home ice come away as winners 3-2. Well, guys, let's take a brief moment here to recap the showcase as a whole. You guys can obviously talk on it from the Blackhawks side. Obviously got to see some of the real talent and the bright stars last night. Not as many of those stars potentially on the ice today here for the Hawks, but still obviously lots to look forward to for Rockford and for Chicago.
Yeah, I thought it was some really good hockey in all three of the games. Specifically, yesterday the Blackhawks came out with a 3-2 victory in overtime, but they had three of their big horses in Oliver Moore, Sam Renzel, Artem Levshunov. The three of them did not play in this game, so it felt like they had a harder time breaking out of their own zone and generating that sort of offense from the back end. But I thought it was entertaining hockey. We got the chippiness that we thought we were going to expect from Chicago, Minnesota, and good overall week, Dana.
Yeah, and both goaltenders from the Chicago side. It's Stanislav Berezhnoi yesterday making his Hawks debut, and Owen Flores today, of course, a Chicago native. I think both of them looked really great. They did not look like goaltenders that had not seen game action in a handful of months. So that's certainly something to be excited about as you start to create your depth charts for the goaltending position on the Chicago side. And Ben, you were alluding to it a little bit just a few moments ago. That depth chart is certainly the one as far as positions goes that you can really spot going all the way from the NHL down to the ECHL.
Well, gentlemen, it has been a real pleasure to sit up top with you here. And before we bid adieu, talking on the Minnesota side, got to see Zeev Buium on Friday night, scored a beautiful goal in that game against St. Louis. Hunter Haight, some moments. Danila Yurov, some moments. Where does he fit into the Minnesota Wild scheme this season? What kind of a year on the blue line will we see from Jack Peart? Some thoughts that I'm thinking about as we go into the coming 25-26 campaign. And some of the newcomers from the most recent draft. Liram Amadovsky had himself a nice weekend with a couple of goals. Adam Bennock showing he's going to be someone that Minnesota will keep their eyes on as a fourth-round pick in this summer's draft as well. And lots of hope for both of these organizations, and I certainly hope we get to do this again sometime. Won't be soon, I know for you, Charlie. We'll see each other very soon, Dana. But, guys, a real pleasure. Lots of smiles today, lots of fun, and we'll get to work on that hat trick package too, right, Dana?
Same time next year in Chicago.
Yes, indeed. Well, for Charlie Roux Meliodas, Dana Gray, Matt Hussey, our director, and the rest of our crew here today, real pleasure to be with you this afternoon here from Tria Rink, Minnesota, on home ice, closing out the 2025 Tom Kurvers Prospect Showcase with a thrilling 3-2 victory. Until next time, a year from now, when we come back for the 2026 Tom Kurvers Prospect Showcase, I'm Ben Gislason. Thanks for stopping by here this afternoon, and a fond farewell and good night from downtown St. Paul.